We are located in a lot of high fire risk areas. We've had to deal with this for multiple years. And so we do a lot of work on vegetation management, trying to ensure that none of our facilities will be the ignition source of a wildfire. We work with a lot of our members on that challenge. But the other thing we're very concerned about is just not the ignition. A lot of wildfires aren't started by us, but they seem to burn down all of our infrastructure. So that's throughout California in these wildfires. So one of our challenges is too, making sure our system is more resilient, it's hardened, it's going to be able to withstand some of the risk that we see in the areas in which we have our facilities. We're also seeing some really aggressive changes in the electric sector. It used to be coal was really bad. Coal still remains bad, except for the administration back in DC, but for California, coal is bad. And we also in California are being told natural gas is bad. We do have natural gas in our portfolio. We don't have any coal. So how are we going to deal with some of our decarbonization goals? And I'll share a little bit about that as we work to get to 100% emission-free per California's requirements on all of this. Some of the other challenges being a public agency is there's a number of new technologies coming out, and our challenge is how quickly we jump into those. Because with each new technology, there's risk. And how much risk do we want to take on behalf of our customers or payers, or should we wait a little bit longer, make sure the technology is proven out a little bit more, but the way things are transitioning, we're having to jump in a little earlier than maybe we're comfortable doing. I'll talk a little bit too later on Project Phoenix, a new project that we're working on today, and what we're doing with hydrogen is one of our fuel sources going forward. Next slide. So the CT1 is mentioned, there are 2 units in Alameda, 1 in Lodi. These are 3 what we call peaking plants. They're really not meant to operate on a regular basis. They're meant to be available during extreme weather events. They're kind of like your backup generator per se. They operate like that, but they're much larger units, and they have really bad heat rates. They're not the kind of units you want to operate for very long duration, but they can if needed. These are older, but they're still workhorses, and you are a part owner in this project. Next slide. Project Phoenix. This project sits at the Lodi Energy Center, and it's an existing unit that we have there. We're calling it Project Phoenix because the existing unit is at end of life, and we have a new project we're building in place of it, and it's really those kind of like Legos. You're taking out the old Legos and going to put a new set in, and it's very modular in approach, but some really new technology. This new technology will be capable of combusting natural gas, but also renewable fuels. That's methane fuels from, say, dairy farms and other things, so we could potentially combust there, as well as hydrogen will be able to combust at this facility. We had a number of member cities that were involved in the original project. The city of Alameda is getting out of that project. They don't need it for their portfolio. And so there's some opportunities for some of the smaller communities to jump in for some level of participation. And we're seeing some interest for this project. Next slide. The Lodi Energy Center, as you can see kind of from the pictures, is again a very, very large facility along I-5. It's 304 megawatts. Really good heat rate, meaning that it takes that natural gas and you can get a lot of production out of the same amount of gas versus some of our other units. It currently is capable of 45% hydrogen blend, so we can take hydrogen and we can put hydrogen. Why do I say hydrogen? Hydrogen, when it combusts, it's emission-free. So we have no emission footprint associated with that combustion when we use hydrogen. And so we have a project to produce hydrogen at that site. Next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing at Lodi. All right, we'll go with this. The way this plant is currently operated in the California market, it operates during really the evening and the morning, and it doesn't operate much during the day. And the reason being, California has had so many renewable resources during the middle of the day, and all the rooftop solar you see, during the middle of the day, energy prices collapse in California. And it's partly because we have just so much solar that it doesn't make sense to operate this unit. So this unit operates, as you can see, during the middle of the day, it's shut off. And we bring it up for the afternoon ramp when the sun starts going down. This unit comes up, it operates most of the evening and into the morning, and as soon as the sun starts coming up in the morning, we tend to shut it down. And that's the way it was designed, and we built it so it can be very fast and support both wind and solar. Next slide. If you have any questions along the way, please take a moment to stop me. So we have this, what we call the phase 1 project of hydrogen. It's a 60 megawatt. We're putting storage capacity on site. We're going to produce hydrogen on site, and we're going to store it into these cylinders on site. We're going to produce it with electrolyzers. So during the day, when I said this unit doesn't operate, we're going to use the same electrical system that we use to send power out onto the grid to your community and to the other communities. We're going to use that same infrastructure. We're going to bring power to the site, and we're going to produce hydrogen. We're going to use that excess electricity we have during the middle of the day. We're going to send it to our electrolyzers. We have reclaimed water on site, not potable water, but reclaimed water. We sit next to the sewage treatment facilities for the city of Lodi. We'll put it into our electrolyzers. We break it apart. We produce hydrogen and we produce oxygen. The oxygen will be available for hospitals and other medical needs, and the hydrogen we'll use and store, and we'll be able to combust it on the facility. So what we're doing is we're trying to set this plant up for all of the communities, that we will have a dispatchable plant that will help keep your lights on in the middle of the night when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining, right? And it will be zero emission, and that's our objective. Try to ensure that you have facilities that will meet your needs in the future and will be cost effective. So next slide. So this is the phase 1. This is just a layout of the project site. In the middle, down in the kind of gray middle of the lower part of the slide, that is the existing plant. That kind of purplish color above is the existing sewage treatment facility there. And then it's that northern portion is going to be where we're going to produce the hydrogen and store it, and then we'll have a pipeline down to the powerhouse. Across the street will be a research and development facility that PG&E is investing in. We'll supply them with hydrogen. They're looking to potentially blend hydrogen into natural gas pipelines throughout California and try to reduce the emission footprint of natural gas pipelines throughout California, extend the life of those a little longer. And so they're going to do that research here, and we're going to help provide some of that hydrogen for the needs. In the middle between there is the I-5 corridor, so major transportation thoroughfare. But we're kind of in a rural agricultural part of the city of Lodi. Next slide. And this shows some renditions of what it's going to look like. So this is where the red circle is. This is the hydrogen producing plant, and each one of those blocks, it will be a phase. So what we're doing, the first phase, is just one of those blocks. There's 4 of them there, and they'll have the storage right there, and you can see in the background the pondage as well as the powerhouse. And next slide. So this is just a side rendition of what it will look like. These will be trucks that will come in, because we'll have capacity to produce excess hydrogen. We'll support the transportation industry, and about a mile away from us is a rail car line. They'll take these trains right off I shouldn't call them trains, but the cylinders right off the trucks. They'll lift up, they'll go right onto a rail car, and they'll go down to the Port of Oakland, which is also one of our members, where they're going to combust and utilize the hydrogen for some of the port activity.
I have a question.
Yep.
So this is the new hydrogen center?
This is what will be built.
Okay, when will it go online? Do you have a date?
So currently we're looking at about 2028.
Okay.
If all goes well, there's some big issues here. I think that might be the next slide. Nope. So we'll go back. Some of the issues, we received a $35 million grant towards the project from the federal government, Department of Energy. We received about a $50 million commitment from the state of California towards this project. There were some tax incentives that were approved in the last administration. All of those are currently at risk.
Yeah.
So some of the challenges are, do the economics still make sense? I would tell you they make sense to do this project long term. We just might slow walk it for a period of time and not make quite the investment or do it at the pace we would consider doing it. So it could be extended beyond 2028 if some of these incentives are no longer available to us. And these were grants that we already signed. So if the administration continues its commitment on those contracts that were already signed for the funding, and we've started some of the work, maybe we're fine, but that's up in the air. We were just back in Washington, D.C. The mayor joined us. We had a number of meetings with Department of Energy and some of the other offices, and they still aren't yet ready to commit. They said the Department of Energy, they should confirm that maybe by the end of the summer.
So it's a possibility.
The project could get
It would
delayed.
continue without funding from the state and federal, or just?
Yeah, and that's the other problem, is the state of California has kind of notified us that because of some of their budget shortfalls, that their funding could get deferred as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.